Cool, man. We're rolling. Nnamdi, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Can you tell me about yourself and what you do here in Montana?
My name is Nnamdi Kanaga, and I'm a independent filmmaker. I have like a small, independent film company here in Bozeman called Naquilia Productions LLC, and what we do basically is, make films, we tell stories, we do content creation, filming, editing, basically post-production needs, theater, everything, just entertainment, art, culture. Yeah.
Okay. And I told you I just watched your film last night, The Hail Mary.
Yeah, you said so.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you want to talk about that one or do you want to talk about your new one that you just got done with? We can talk
Okay.
about both, but
Yeah.
pick
Oh, yeah.
whichever
Okay,
first.
let's start from the very beginning, which is Hail Mary. Hail Mary. Thank you by the way for watching.
Yeah.
That's cool. We filmed that in 2020. That's during the pandemic, and that was actually when I started, my film company, my LLC. Yeah. So it was the very first film that I ever made here, and it sort of like launched, my filmmaking career here in Bozeman. And I wanted to make the film first of all to, just like see what it feels, what it means, to tell stories like that in Montana. When you think of Montana, you think of what it means to what it means to exist in the West,
Mhm.
and there's so many like very particular stories that are made here, mostly like, stories that, about cowboys, horses, ranches and stuff like that. And that's what's sort of like it's typical with filmmaking in Montana, and then me coming, being a Nigerian, living here when I went to school here, and I have very different experiences, and for me, what it means to exist in the West is completely different from what people would think when they hear, "Oh, you live in Montana," So I wanted to, when I wanted to start making films, I wanted to sort of like not necessarily, you know, try to do what's already or what's been done, what's known to be done so far as storytelling. I wanted to offer sort of like a perspective, a new perspective, a um a new eye, so to speak, on what it means to be in the West, what it means to exist in the West, So that's what I started, and I wanted to tell a very, unique, beautiful story about people, humans existing, So that's how the Hail Mary started. And it's of course based off personal experiences, fathers and sons and how they, navigate life. And some people unluckily have sort of like a, you know, um strained relationship with their fathers, and there's no much narratives around the idea of seeking forgiveness, seeking healing, when it comes to such relationships. So I wanted to use that opportunity to launch, this new perspective, this new storytelling of a father who comes to Montana to try to, mend his strained thing with his son, and Montana being like a space for healing, a space for, redemption and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to do. And when I did that film during the pandemic, which was crazy, everyone thought I was nuts trying to make a film in the pandemic. Well, when that happened, it sort of like made me realize, oh wow, okay, I can do so many things, even when things are tough, when there's like challenges and stuff like that. That was what making that film did for me, and that sort of like launched, everything that I started doing afterwards. So that's how, a bit of like a backstory for like the Hail Mary.
What year did you come out here to go to school?
That's a very great question. Because me as Nnamdi growing up in Nigeria, I didn't even know what Montana was. I had no idea what that was. When it comes to like, America, of course, LA, New York, Atlanta, these are the places that, you see on TV and stuff like that. And that's what we knew. So I had applied for this program. There's this big festival, excuse me, in Nigeria called Africa International Film Festival, and it's one of the biggest festivals in Africa actually, and it's held in Lagos, Nigeria. So what they do is when they do the festival, they always like take select like 20 students across different areas of filmmaking, and bring them to the US to, further their filmmaking career and stuff like that. So I had applied, for the program, and I was, taking the acting class because I started off wanting to be an actor. I still, I'm an actor, but I'm mostly writing and directing now. But yeah, so anyway, I was in the acting class, and thankfully I got selected as among the 20 people that was going to come to the US to have this to further their filmmaking, career. And we all thought it was going to be like LA, like I said, New York, and all of those places. But lo and behold, it was Montana, and that was my first American experience. I've never been anywhere else except Montana, and that was in 2016. So when we came here, it was very different, very unusual, but I liked it. I think I was probably the only person who liked, being here. Maybe, I don't know, but I really liked it. And when I came here, I made friends with people. I asked questions, and when the program was done, I went back to Nigeria. I started applying for the English program at MSU, and I got in. And when I came to MSU, I did my program. I felt that I was in a space where I could really create and do the things that I wanted to do and tell the kind of stories I wanted to tell. And of course, Montana is so beautiful. Like if you look around you, like wake up in the morning, you're very inspired to like write something. And contrary to public opinion, where people think, oh, if you're in place like LA, New York, it's easier, you know, sorry, it's harder
Hmm.
actually because you have people to compete with. But surprisingly, it's really really hard here, even because now there's no template, there's nothing to look up to, there's no one to like say, hey, you've done this before, can you show me how to do this? No, it's like you're doing everything afresh, new. It's challenging, but at the same time it's just so beautiful for me. And
Yeah.
I like things that challenge my mind, unlike people that would say, oh, you go to LA and make it, or go to Atlanta and make it as a filmmaker. For me, I see it as just, it's too usual for me. If I go there's so many people doing the same things over and over again. For me, I don't have this this thing that wants to make me to be creative or unique or different. So, but here, hard as it is very challenging, of course, but also very, very interesting for me because I tend to like think of the craziest ideas, how to make certain things work that ordinarily would not work. So that's why, I just liked it here. And when I was done with my school, I opened up my LLC, and I started, making films. So yeah.
So you're saying if you're in New York or LA, you're kind of like following the same template that everyone else is, and you're just
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's how I mean, I might be, this is just my opinion,
yeah.
I've been to all these places. I've, done stuff in LA, I've been to New York, I've been to Texas, I've been to Atlanta, stuff like that. I just see people, you know, making movies and for me, I just feel like it's not unique with the kind of stories I want to tell. Think about it. For example, I made my first feature film. It's called Water Girl. I filmed it on 2024, and it did festivals last year. And I had a huge screening here in Bozeman and Helena. If I think about that, for example, that's like an African folklore
Mhm.
that I explored, and I reimagined it and I set it in Bozeman. Where in the world would you ever think that an African folklore would exist in a place like Montana? Like, it is not even possible.
Yeah.
Like, Atlanta, maybe because there's so many Nigerians, the Africans are there. Oh, New York, maybe. Texas. Oh, of course, there's so many Africans there. So you would almost think, okay, well, I can see how that would work in a place like that. But you would never imagine it being possible in Montana. So for me, it took me 5 years to write the script, and it wasn't because it was a very unique, stories that I was telling. This story has been told many times in Nigeria in so many ways. I don't know if you know, but we have a huge film industry called Nollywood.
Okay.
That's like Nigerian Hollywood, so it's called Nollywood. So, and no, I grew up watching Nollywood films, and these are films that were made in the early 2000s and late 90s. So these are the films that sort of like inspired me to want to be a filmmaker. So this story that I made in the film has been told a gazillion times in so many ways, right? But the perspective of, a Nigerian mother living in Bozeman and dealing with the supernatural elements that would only exist in a place like Nigeria, but it's happening in this world that I built in this film. in Montana, and she has a daughter who is born in Montana and deals with this spiritual element, and has to deal with all of these things, and then of course has to maybe go back home, whatever. But just the idea of it existing in Montana, and Montana not only being just a backdrop, but like a cultural element that ties and marries this Nigerian folklore together, so
Yeah.
it's like, that's very, to me, that's unique and challenging. And so that's what I want. Is like, I want to be able to create and make films like this, whereby ordinarily you think it's not possible. When you watch it and then you see the work that was done, to make it happen, you're like, oh wow. And again, some part of me just likes the idea of, you know, having to go through trying to like cast black actors, and just that whole stress of like, oh, how am I going to get this person? Okay, I'm going to find this, I'm going to do this, and then I get it and I do it, and I'm like, I did that. For me, that's just what I like. So I'll rather deal with the challenges of making this unique or telling unique, different stories, than be in a space where I can just do anything I want to do without having to go through so much challenge. That's weird, but I mean, I like it.
No, I can appreciate that. I'm always trying to think. Sometimes I get almost a little bit irritated that I only think in the box that I know
Yeah.
because I just, I learned from people around me and I
hmm
learned what they did and I do the
hmm
same thing. And I'm always trying to just think a little bit differently. And how
Yeah.
can I do this?
Yeah.
I was just talking with a woman yesterday, um, Dr. Jen, and she was talking about a book called The Artist's Way.
hmm
She was saying a lot of people read that when they're kind of trying to find a different way to do things.
hmm
And I was telling her I have the book and I haven't read it yet, but I need to read
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
because, but I can appreciate that because even hearing that, like that folklore
Yeah.
taking place in Montana,
hmm
it's intriguing to
Oh
me
yeah.
because
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, how
Yeah.
does that play
Exactly.
out?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Of
and,
course.
and
Yeah.
you said that film's out.
No, it's not out yet. So it's currently being, I'm talking with, again, it's the hassles of independent filmmaking is you have to deal with, getting it out there, to platforms and meeting with distributors or whatever. So right now we've done festivals. We did a couple of festivals in 2025, which was great. And now I'm in talks with some people to see how I was going to get out there. But yeah, I did a screening in Bozeman and Helena, and, it was incredible how people were able to relate with this folklore, even though I thought it was going to be very hard for people to understand. But because of the universality of the themes that I explore, motherhood, childbirth,
Mm.
wanting to have a child and not able to have a child, dealing with barrenness, so all of those things are like universal themes that whether you're black, white, pink, red, whatever it is you are, it's something that you deal with. Women, mothers, they deal with it. So I guess just because of the relatability of it, it was easy for people to really like lean into the folklore and understand. And even where they didn't understand, it opened up doors for me to really explain and, introduce this culture, to people that ordinarily you would never, be able to come in terms with it. So yeah, that was really cool. And I know when it's out, people are gonna get to watch it and see again. But yeah.
Very cool. Hi, folks. Quick note from me. If you don't already know, the goal of Mountain Mule is to build real connection between Montana's businesses and the people they serve. We provide private transportation services and Yellowstone National Park tours. If this episode or any other has given you something worth thinking about, smiling at, passing along, I've got a small ask. Share it with a friend, text it to someone, consider following the show. Whether you're using our services directly or following and sharing the show, those simple actions help support this business as well as the businesses and guests that have been a part of the show. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses, local jobs, and this beautiful state. Now back to the show. When you were talking about the first form, the first film, a
hmm
Hail Mary,
Yeah.
and you said Montana or Bozeman is like a place of healing.
hmm
Was that something you felt when you came here?
Oh yeah, oh definitely for sure. Yeah. I mean, I when I came when I came for the program that came initially in 2016, and I went back and I came back in 2018 for my masters. I just had this. It was just like, it was a struggle at first trying to adjust, because when I came the first time, I was with like 20 other Africans, so it
Okay.
was like I look to my left, I'm seeing somebody. It's not, it was easy for me to like adjust. When I came back again alone,
Mhm.
that's when it dawned on me like, oh my gosh, this is different.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to adjust. But when I adjusted, it was great. And, when I say healing, I'm talking about, I lost my dad here.
Okay.
So my dad passed away in Nigeria and I was here. That was like, I think, my second semester of first year of grad school when he died. So, and his funeral was going to be around when I had my exams, my final semester exams. So I couldn't go back. I had to write it because my professors were like, you have to just, you have to, if you defer, it's going to be hard. Just try your best and get it done, So, I had to stay back and do it. So most of my healing was here. It
Mhm.
was right here. Everything that I dealt with was here. Everything that I was going through was right here. I was here with a couple of friends. My family was far away from me, but I had to navigate the loss of my dad and everything, and just all of those things that happened here. So, and when that was over, it was very great that I experienced that here. One because, back home you have lots of people around you that sort of like gather when there's grief and all of that. So when there's people around you, sometimes it takes a long time for you to be able to really start feeling the loss of a loved one, because when the person passes away up until when the person is buried, family is around you every time. So sometimes you can easily escape.
Yeah,
Not saying it gets easier, but you can escape at some point with cousins, aunties, uncles. Noise is everywhere. People making noise. So you can escape for a moment. I know you don't feel it, and also it takes a while for us to even bury people. My
mm.
dad died in like May, and he was buried in July.
Oh,
So
really?
imagine if you're back home when he died that first day, you cry, whatever, and that's it. You know, ending of May to the whole of June, you still live your normal life because it's like it just feels like somebody just traveled. So my mom was going to work, because it's not the funeral was still going to be like a month after. So you still live your normal life. So sometimes your mind just messes with you and you forget that you've lost someone. So it takes you a while. But then when the funeral is over and everyone is gone, and then you're left alone, see the long time, then it starts to dawn on you like, oh my gosh, I've lost someone. So, and then you start again to start going through grief and from the beginning and all of that. So, but here, when somebody passes away here, people come, you respect your privacy, but they come when they need to come and they go. And then you spend time in that loneliness, that quiet to deal with it. And then after a while, you start to, there's nobody to make noise and help you distract you from the grief.
Yeah,
You have to deal with it there and then of course you have to get to work because you have bills to pay. Because I'm the firstborn of my family and I had to pay for the funeral, so I had to work. So I was working. So when my dad died, that day, of course it was that you hard whatever, and after that I had to go back to work. I dealt with it and had my moment where I wasn't alone. I dealt with all the silences and all of that. But I still went back and I had my moment where I had to deal with all of everything. And I went back to living my life. So it's the reverse of it is what we have back home. So that's why for me, I say healing, because in that moment for the first time, I healed in a very different way. And so that's why when I made Hail Mary, I wanted him to come to this space to try to amend, heal and deal with, what they're, because again, you're in Montana, it's you and your son. If you are in your family home, okay, maybe there's a grandmother, there's an uncle, somebody, but now it's just both of you. So you have to deal with it. It might take a while, but you would definitely deal with it. As you see in the movie, they spent a lot of time denying each other's feelings or whatever. But when that time came for that thing to be dealt with, it was handled in that moment.
yeah.
That's what I see it as. So that's why all of those things. That's what my personal experience, with healing in Montana, sort of like influenced, the characters that I write. Hail Mary, Water Girl, and then the one I just finished filming a few days ago.
So in Nigeria, do you know why it's a couple weeks between or a couple months between the burial and when somebody passes?
I think there's so many things that influences it. Like I think this culture of like burying late is mostly particular to my tribe. So I'm from the Igbo tribe, and that's I think I pretty much think that we are the ones that mostly do that. And there's so many reasons that influences it, but one of them I think is the timing, the calendar. You don't want to bury someone, when there's like festivities. You don't want people to be dealing with funerals and then there's festivities going on. So that could be one of the influences, I guess. And maybe just like, time to plan. I guess,
Yeah.
because it's a thing, particularly like an older person, you want to plan and give the person a befitting burial, but sometimes it doesn't really make any sense because I mean the person is dead. You don't want to spend all the money you have on someone that's dead, and then of course you want people to be able to move on quickly. Maybe that's what I think helped me in my own
Yeah.
time. But I guess I don't know. They want you to really celebrate, or send home this person, properly, so that's what I don't know if there's any other cultural implication. Maybe there is. I can't remember at the top of my head, but I know timing, the calendar, and of course planning, are things that influences it. There's been a lot of talks about how that's like just bad and hideous and it needs to change, because of how it affects the family members, which I sort of like agree because I dealt with that too. But again, I understand, how it was in the past and why those cultures were set, in place when it comes to funerals. But sometimes it can be very, 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 very crazy.
So it can negatively affect because it's prolonged so much.
Yeah, it's so long and you just wait and wait and wait. And then like I said, your mind plays games with you. Then you start to like forget that somebody had passed away because you like, for example, like I said, my dad passed in May, and then of course the whole of June we're planning the funeral, but of course we have to do like live our lives too. So sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you go to work, you just forget. In your mind, it just feels like, okay, well, maybe this person traveled or went on a vacation or whatever. And then your mind messes with you, and then you're like, oh, person is dead. That all those the games your mind plays with you, it's not healthy, for someone when you're grieving. So
Yeah.
I can see how that can be very taunting, and yeah, I wish and I'm hopeful that at some point it changes because it's not easy.
Yeah, it's almost like when there's that funeral and that memorial, that's when you really have to accept it
Yeah.
because, people come to say, as they call it, their
Hmm.
final goodbye,
Hmm.
and you see friends and family, and then after that, you I think you internalize it.
Yeah.
So if that is prolonged, I could see
Yeah,
why
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then, like I said, the denial process in that whole long time. Then, when the funeral now comes and you deal with it in that moment, you now also have to deal with what comes after.
Yeah,
It's just too much. It's a lot. Again, like I said, I understand to an extent why that is, but again, it's just too long. So,
yeah, and we don't have to keep talking about it if you don't want to,
oh no,
because
no,
I
it's
know.
fine. No, go ahead.
So because you were so far away, were you able
Mhm.
to like internalize it and accept that here?
I think that played a
Mhm.
part, I guess. It played a part actually. Yeah, it did. Because being detached to an extent, being detached geographically, sort of like it just gives you this, I don't know what to call it, but it helped. I'm not going to lie,
Yeah,
maybe that's part of why I'm also still like sometimes I just ask myself, did I really grieve?
yeah,
Because I don't think I really, really grieved it. I don't think I did. Because the geographical detachment, made me. It was easy to an extent to just get back to work and just start doing everything I was doing. You know. But yeah, it did to an extent. Yeah. So sometimes I sit back and I ask myself, oh, I don't think I really grieve properly, and every now and then I still think of it and I'm like, and I feel hurt and I remember and I go through that moment. But in that period when it happened, when he passed away that first day, the next day, next week, it was just like, you know, it helped me so well. I'm not gonna lie to you. It
yeah.
did.
And have you been back to Nigeria since then?
No, I've not been back, but
Okay.
I'm gonna be back. Go back this year. So I'm also dealing with like,
Yeah,
so yeah, I'm gonna go face the reality of it.
yeah,
But that's why this year particularly the things I've been putting out in terms of like films and stories is I call it I always say I'm on a journey to understanding grief.
yeah,
So even with my book and my film that I made in Dylan a few days ago, it's all trying to understand what grief really is. I guess it's just me trying to like set myself to really like when I go back home and I face the reality of, I'm able to really understand, I'm prepared, so to speak, and just get myself ready for whatever I would encounter when it comes to like just being faced with that reality of like, okay, I'm coming. Because when I left Nigeria to Montana for my master's, my dad was with me at the airport. He sent me, took me to the airport and he was there with me. Now I'm going back home. I'm not going to go see him. So
Mhm.
it's like my mind is getting ready to that reality. So
Yeah, because in a way, then it will sink in a little
oh,
bit
it
then.
will
Yeah.
definitely, it will. Yeah, of course. Because like I said, the mind messes with you in ways that you can't even understand. So when I'm on the plane, I'm about to land into Nigeria. My mind's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm getting to the same airport. I will remember, definitely, I will remember that leaving, I had left with these family members, and I'm going back now, and then one person is missing.
Yeah.
So,
I can relate. I grew up on the other side of the country,
hmm
and there's things you leave behind from a life, and then when
hmm
I go back there, I find
just
myself
yeah,
faced with it,
hmm
and it's tough because I'm not trying to run away,
yeah,
but I am also building a life here.
oh, definitely,
So there's a but I
oh
go
yeah,
back there and I I don't know if you've experienced this or you'll have to let me know after you go back,
hmm
but parts of me almost shift back into that person
oh yeah.
because I'm very different.
Oh, definitely. Oh,
So
definitely. Yeah. Even me, I like to say that I am very Nigerian, of course, like I did things that have changed just being here. Of course, definitely. Like even my mindset like has changed and everything, the way I think, the way I behave and all of that. But again, when you come close to what used to be a reality, you would see yourself like having that. It's going to be that shift slowly. And there's going to be a struggle with should I or should I not? You know, can I or can't I? Like you have that, you want to sleep back and then you come back, those moments, So definitely, like, I know I'm going to, even just thinking about like, oh, I'm going to travel, I am already slowly like getting there, like, oh my gosh, these are the things that I'm going to have to deal with, okay, this, that, oh, that. So like my mind's already like setting itself for that, confrontation, So yeah, definitely. I agree.
it makes me think because you said you came here in 2016 and you
hmm
were with around 20
hmm
people.
hmm
The last time I went home, I went with my fiance
Okay.
and I met her here.
Oh yeah.
So it was like I brought a piece of my life here with me and I felt so much more grounded there.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
So it was I really appreciated it because I felt very grounded and connected to who I am here and the life I built here.
Yeah.
And I took that there and it was a weird dichotomy
Mhm.
to see them both. But I'd imagine when you came here in 2016, you felt more connected to Nigeria.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then when you came back by yourself, it's kind of
It's like and yeah, I agree with you. And in some ways, I also think going with something also helps. Like for example, if I'm when I'm going back, I probably go with my like, films that I've made here, like films, and that's something that will keep me grounded. Like, oh yeah, okay, this thing I did here, and if I eventually say, okay, I want to make a film if I come back to America or whatever, I understand the what I've built and where I am in terms of like storytelling. I'm going to take that with me and also use that to whatever I'm going to create. If I want to even say, if I decide to say, okay, I want to, maybe one of the things I also want to do is like help, young filmmakers back home, help them build something. I say, okay, I've learned these things here. I'm going to take that with me and use that to help people. So that's me still holding on to like what I've built so I don't lose myself in a way. Because like you said, you've built something here, it's part of you, it's who I am now.
mhm.
That doesn't change who I was, but I'm different, so and it's okay, so I want to also have those elements, reflected in whatever it is I'm gonna be doing anywhere I find myself, if it's in Nigeria, in any country else, whatever, yeah. For most definitely for sure.
And to the film, so the story that you were telling is essentially of this man, the actor in the film is
hmm
to mend this relationship with his father while he's here and while he
hmm
has the chance to, and
hmm
that's a story you're trying to tell and share
in
in the Hail Mary.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, yeah. Hail Mary was definitely just like an attempt to just like the term Hail Mary, of course, in football, it's like the final attempt, the last minute try, whatever. So it's like this man and his son, estranged, and he brings him to Montana, after years in the military, and says, oh, let me just try to draw close to this boy, whatever. But it's been the distance, of course. But I'm trying to mend it with this kid. And this kid, of course, is angry and sad, rightfully, and agrees. Him agreeing to go with his father means there's something that wants to repair the estrangement, so they come here and, it's still very difficult to deal with these challenges and they don't confront it. And then one day, when the chips are down, it happens. And then when it happens, then the boy realizes, oh, wow, okay, this man been through a lot, whatever. And he meets with the professor, which I play.
Yep.
And then he says, when you change the way you see things, the things you see change. Of course, your father made a mistake, whatever. Why don't you be the one to reach out? Of course, every kid wants their parents to be superheroes, but sometimes that's not who they are. Parents are humans. Just like everybody makes mistakes, parents make mistakes. Some parents make more mistakes than other parents, but mistakes are mistakes, right? So, but sometimes, when we expect our parents to be the one to make things happen, to change things, sometimes it's not always how it goes. Sometimes you can be the one to take the bold step and say, hey, why did you do this? I want to know why, you know? So that was my message. My message basically is just like, hey, young man, while you think your parents are this and that and whatever, you can also be the one to make that bold step and confront the things that are if that are not okay with you. And that's also me also saying I wish I did that too. Because I and my dad didn't have the best of relationships. And I wanted to when I wanted he was gonna come to my graduation, and stuff like that. And my plan was to when he comes, I would sit him down and be like, hey, these, and they will mend it all. But fortunately that didn't happen. So I'm saying to everybody, you know, while you can, reach out, try to save things. It's possible. You can, and shockingly, the guy who plays the lead character in his real life had the same thing with his dad. And after he made the movie, he went ahead to reach out to his father. And now they are trying to mend it, That was a blessing for me. I was really happy hearing that, So I was like, yeah, that's what I want. Our parents, do only what they are able to do. They can try hard,
Yeah.
but they will only do what they're able to do. And they only give what they can give. Some parents don't even know what it means to be parents. Some parents with parents are like 12,
Yeah.
10. That's a stretch. But,
Mm.
18, 17, whatever. But you get the point, My dad, when he passed away, then I realized that he didn't even have a father.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. It was when he died, I realized that his own dad left when he was still in the womb. So someone and he grew up at age of 14. My dad left, his town to chase, greener pastures. I started working at 18, joined the military at 18. And I was just the reason why he got married because he knocked my mom, up and then I came to be. So it's like, when you think about that, like, what do you expect someone like that to give to you when he didn't have a father who was there for him, had to be a man at age 14, had to start working, fend for himself, send himself through school, and then join the military. We all know how difficult the military is, and then had me.
Yeah.
So what would you expect him to give to you? So it was then I realized, oh damn, okay, cool. I probably could have just given a bit more grace. I didn't do that. I was just so angry. Like, why would you be? So I'm saying there are many fathers like that too. And so it's okay for you to be the one to, you can be angry, that's fine, but you can also be the one to help them see things differently, I guess.
I really resonated with this personally because it was actually with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
My father passed away when I was pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this, this rocky relationship with
Yeah.
my mother because I'm
Mm-hmm.
a kid and I don't know why this
Yeah.
happened. We didn't talk for a couple of years, um, maybe from like age like 23 to 25.
Oh wow.
And I don't know if we ever would have talked again, but I like, I was just finally becoming a little bit of an adult and a man
Mm-hmm.
around 25. And I said to myself one day, if I don't like, my mother's very stubborn and so am I. That's where I get it from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I don't fix this, it might never get fixed. And so I just, like I said, and I wouldn't even say I'm a bigger person, but I'm like, I gotta do something here. So we hadn't talked in a couple of years and I showed up on Mother's Day with flowers.
Oh,
And we have a great
that's
relationship. I
beautiful.
love my mother very much.
Yeah.
And for me and my siblings,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more, we can all get along because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
we all get along with my mother. And
Yeah.
um, like, that's one of the things I'm very proud that I did.
That's beautiful.
But it's like, I just maybe I had a few of the right influences or
Mhm.
heard enough and had
Mhm.
enough time to think about it. But so I could really appreciate
Yeah.
because, my father passed when I was young. I was like too young to even like have
Mhm.
we had a good
Memory. Yeah.
relationship, but
Mhm.
that thought must have crossed my mind. Well, my mother's here
Mhm.
and I have a chance to have a good relationship with one of my
Exactly.
parents. So
Mhm.
I appreciate what the film was portraying
Oh,
very much.
definitely, most definitely, and that's beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted to make people realize with the film. It's so much, so many things. The film is saying. As, being a war veteran and what you go through, the PTSD, so much of that.
Yep.
But the most important thing of this, the juice of the story is, I wanted young men, because I was focused on a father and a son. I wanted young men, particularly, to realize that it's okay to be the one. We say the bigger person. Okay, fine and good. Be the bigger person. It's fine. Because there's this thing that they say, I don't know if how true that is possible, that when parents grow older, they become like children. So it makes sense, like, when you become an adult and your parents start to go down, it's okay for you to not be the parent of your parents.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's so much that they can give. Okay, like you, for example, now when your dad passed away, your mom could have been going through so much with the
Yeah.
loss of her husband or whatever, and that could have affected, whatever it is that maybe she wasn't being that well much of a mother. It could be so many things, psychologically, it could be emotionally, it could be physically, whatever. So, and maybe you were too young to even realize what that was, but all you realized was the fact that she was not being or doing exactly what you wanted her to do, however it is that she was to you or whatever. So now being an adult and you realize, okay, well, I can see. That's why where I always I have a bit of a regret is, in those moments where I could have just been the one to ask questions. Because there were times I saw my dad actually talking to other people, playing and being friendly with other people like my age, and I'm like, huh, this man can laugh. He never like really like laughed. I mean, he laughed a couple of times, but we didn't really have moments where we like laughed and cackled or whatever. But I saw him when I see my friends sit down with my dad. There was one particular day I walked into my house one time. I went out and I came back home and I saw my dad chatting with my friend. Like they were just chatting and laughing and giggling. And I was just like, what? What is going on here? This man, like, so you can talk like this? We never ever chatted like that. So for me, I was just like, huh. So I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I just waved it off. That could have been the moment where I would have been like, oh, I'd be like, hey, dad, let's talk. I mean, I've seen you talk, so we must talk today, like force and but I was just like, whatever, I didn't care. Because I was like, yeah, it just that's how I lived my life with him around him. I was like, I feared him, I was so scared of him. So I was just like, okay, there's fear, and that's it, there's respect, and I'm just gonna do my thing. And again, he hated the fact that I was into the arts. He never liked that I was making films and doing theater art, whatever. He hated it with his soul, and that was what even caused the bigger rift
Hmm.
between us. But this is what's funny. I actually found a play text in his pile of books one time. Like I opened his pile up and I saw like a play with a name of the character written in pen. And I'm very sure he acted that play one time. I don't know where that was, but he had done the play before. So that could have been a chance for me to have been like, hey, this book, I found this book in your pile of books. Tell me about this. I want to know. And that could have been a bonding moment, whatever. It could have been something, but I just, oh, whatever, waved it off. It was after he passed away, I was like, I could have asked about this book. I could have done this. I could have done that. So, in all, the Hail Mary was just me just trying to like, just say, hey guys, while you still can,
Yeah.
you know?
And it seems like you obviously with the one lead that you were saying,
Hmm.
like he had that experience. So you've taken your experience and you've made it
Yeah.
very powerful for
Hmm.
for anyone going through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think about that too because I've got three siblings and my mother's going through so much, and
mhm.
you don't think about that when you're a
No,
kid.
you
Like
don't.
I can only imagine as an adult what she dealt with. I had a younger brother that passed before I was born, so
Mhm.
like for one woman to carry all
I
that
love that.
and then raise kids,
Mhm.
like now I think it's a miracle.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
you're a superhero.
Oh,
How did
yeah.
you do this?
Oh, yeah.
And I know you had a quote about wasn't it a Robert Downey quote at the end?
Oh, yeah.
But I look at her now and think, God, I'm forever grateful and
Oh,
impressed
yeah.
with what you did.
Oh, yeah. She could have left.
Yeah.
She could have just dumped you guys in the in the daycare or whatever, home, foster care, whatever, and just gone.
Yeah.
But she chose to stay back and deal with and allow you guys see the vulnerability of her, to allow you guys see the struggles and the pain and all of that. I think that's beautiful. And you just even realizing that when you got older and then made that step to, mend it, that's beautiful. So that's my goal. And thankfully I've received so many people sending messages when they watch the film and, hey, this is what happened to me and all of that. And whenever I see those messages, there's a little bit of, jealousy there. I'm like, oh, I wish I had the chance to do that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I'm grateful that this has helped you do this. So if that's what I get from making the film, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, what a powerful thing to take action and do something for good rather than just,
Yeah.
resent yourself
Oh yeah,
forever
for
for
it.
that.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
you're
definitely.
and then this next film, how much of this new film have you pulled a lot of your life story into this new film as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. Like I think for me, I realized when I started, making films in 2020, I realized that I do so well when I bear myself, and, just like writers and, storytellers all over the world, when you open up yourself to the world, you tell the best stories, so I'm not afraid to bear myself to people because at the end of the day, I just want the world to be a better place, so, and I'm very particular about grief because I think grief is something that people don't really talk about a lot because it's something that's very difficult to talk about. So I want to, let people know that you're not alone, so this new one we just finished filming in Dillon, Montana, and it's called The Last Big Sky, and it's very much personal. So it's loosely based on my mother and, how she dealt with the grief of my brother's passing, and how that affected her, and how that's affecting her still. So it's basically, about a mother, and I because I did not want to be so close to the story, I sort of like loosely based it off my mom, but from a third culture perspective. And
Mhm.
a third culture perspective simply means, some other culture experiencing this. So the mom is a Montana, mom lady who married a Nigerian man, and she's been in Nigeria for 10 years. So she's practically Nigerian. And then they have a child. And of course, their son, is schooling in Montana. He's going to school in Montana, and is this huge football player in Montana in this fictional school in Dillon. So her husband is dead too. And so now this boy is like everything to her, but she still lives in Nigeria. And unfortunately, the boy, passes away at a football game, and not like he just collapses and is on life support, but he's practically like brain dead, So the mom has to now travel from Nigeria back to Montana, which is like leaving a familiar place to an unfamiliar yet familiar place. So she's back home, but then she's not coming back home for anything joyful, but she's coming back home to take her son off life support. So the story basically just follows her from, when she comes to Montana and just dealing with her son lying down there, practically just like tied to this machine. And she's just there dealing with the grief of it all, and she's going through like memories from images, from items, from flashbacks, voice notes, voicemails, and stuff like that. And then the whole day, and then until this is time to like take him off life support. And then she just deals with all of that, and then now, once he's dead, she's now going through the psychological implication of losing her child. And now she's now remembering that, oh, her husband is gone and now her child is gone. So there's so much psychological plays going on in her mind, how she's dealing with it, and just all that process of like being alone and just dealing with all of this grief, So that's what I'm exploring with this film, basically. It's just it's very small. It's a short film, small and intimate, but mostly about like grief and just for me that psychological implication of when you lose someone moments after, not years after, but moments after, you lose someone dear to you, how that affects you psychologically is what The Last Big Sky is about.
Yeah, I mean, grief's a
Yeah,
very
it
interesting
is. It
concept.
is. Mhm.
So are you like a lot of this art, is it you're processing this through the art and putting something out into the
Mhm.
world and also helping yourself understand.
Oh yeah, 100%. I always say this, like, arts film saved me. You know, if without films, without having a platform to pour all of this, pain and darkness and whatever, I don't know what I could have, how else I could have, I don't know what I could have been, or what my life would have been like. I could have just been this very horrible, like, difficult, sad person. Because I love family, I
Mm.
love children. I wouldn't want to bring in children to this world when I'm just miserable. So I want somewhere where I can pour all of my misery and pain and sorrows and struggles and questions, so that when I have my children, I'm able to be a great father, and that's, not just be this man who has this baggages that he's dealing with. So yeah, so art films are just my way, it's just a way of healing for me. While I'm here, I'm just like, for this film I just finished making, I'm just trying to understand what grief really is. And also, like I said, when I eventually want to go back home to see my family, I don't want to go back home messed up. I want to go back home, clean. So how do I do that? I build these characters and pour my anger on them, and allow them just live vicariously through these characters,
Yeah.
right? And then in some ways, I am detaching myself from these things. So when I look at this film, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's who's dealing with that, not me. And it just helps me mentally in a way. I don't know. Um, as I live my life. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's a beautiful concept to
Yeah.
think of how it's expressed through you and then put into
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I think I was talking to my fiance about this with a lot of songwriting. Some of the darkest songwriting, there's so much power
Oh
in that
yeah.
emotion
Hmm.
that you can feel it. And it's not that you can't in the joyous stuff, but there's
Yeah.
something when people go to those depths
Hmm.
that they turn it into art is it's I don't know, it's almost weird, an oxymoron to say there's beauty in it, but there's so
Oh
much
yeah.
beauty in the
Oh
darkness.
yeah. There's beauty in pain.
Yeah.
There's beauty in vulnerability. There's beauty in struggles. There's beauty in, hardship. You know, some in so many ways I relate to this in so many ways. For example, as an independent filmmaker, right? I'm in Montana making films in Montana. I don't have any studio, any financier giving me money, whatever. I basically like crowdfunded for to make my film, and I'm still crowdfunding to do post production for my film. And in all of this struggle, something tells you, man, you have to just go through this pain. Why don't you just stop making films and then don't deal with them anymore? Which I can do that, but at the same time, there's this thing there's this joy that I get when I see something impossible, and then I make it happens, and then I'm like, well, it's done. Thank God it's done. You know, it happened. I just have this joy that comes to me. Or when I'm writing this very, people say, oh my gosh, that I write sad stories. I get it. Whatever. But when I pour out this pain on paper.
That's why you're in Montana. You're like a country music singer.
Exactly. In some ways I sort of like relate to,
Yeah.
when I listen to country music, I see them, it's like you're pouring your anger, your pain, your struggles in this thing. It's like, that's beautiful. And then when I write these stories, and I let this in theater, they tell you, leave it all on stage.
Mhm.
When I leave it all on my paper and in my scripts, and I put my pen down and I look at what I've written, and I'm like, this is like, you let go, and it's just, and then you read your words, your lines. It's beautiful. Even though the character is like bawling their eyes out, there's just this beauty in being able to see a character just release all of this anger. I would rather have this anger and this pain released on paper, released in film, than pouring it on somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard like athletes say that. Some fighters, some football players, like, hey, if I wasn't doing this, I might be in prison.
Exactly.
And because if that's in you and you need to find a way to get it out, but like that's why I say this is a beautiful way
Oh
to
yeah,
get this out.
exactly. I'll give you an example. Um, a week before I went on set to make The Last Big Sky, I had applied to a grant, and I was hoping I was going to get that grant. Like, I poured all my soul to that grant. And I started planning to make this film. I was already making plans like last year. Like, I did my casting. I started getting props. I designed a whole football gear. I was already doing that like a year, like months before I even, got the grant. I was sure that I was going to get this grant. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this grant to make this film. So I'm going to, I'm also like one of the board members at the Verge Theater, and I was going to volunteer to help house manager play. So as I was walking to go do that on my way, I was about to cross the road and my phone chimed and I opened my phone and I got an email. I did not get the grant. I was like, if I had stepped into the road, I'm very sure a car could have hit me because I was gone. Like in that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, But I held myself together and I went into the theater to volunteer. In tears, I was crying. I went to the bathroom, cleaned my eyes, and I was about to go. And this old lady calls me out, sits me down, starts to make conversations with me. Now, ideally, that could have been a chance to like say something very like maybe like vent or something or like bust out some kind. I'm like, could you leave me alone? Some just angry. But she was just like happy to talk to me. She has read about me somewhere. She just filmed for the first time. And she was like, oh my gosh, I've been hearing about you. I want to talk to you. I want to get to know you more. That was the worst moods ever. That was the worst timing to want to get to know me because I was angry. I lost something I wanted so bad. I'm not in the mood to talk to you, but I could have unleashed let me tell you the honest truth. What my mind wanted to do in that moment was to unleash all the anger in the world on this poor, innocent old woman who only wanted to make a talk with me and get to know me. But I just like took a breath. I'm like, oh hi, yeah, my name is Nnamdi. How you doing? I started talking to her. We talked for like an hour. And in that moment, I forgot that I even lost the grant. But we talked, and then when she was gone, I went back to oh yeah, I lost the grant, but yeah, whatever. All I'm saying is with this whole thing is I was able to, in that moment, not unleash the anger and the pain and everything, and just to talk to this lady. That's what writing and pouring your anger does. It's like you pour everything on script, and then you don't have to do that to a person. Imagine what I would look like if I had just busted out on this lady and then maybe shouted at her or like I could have messed up my day and then her day. And then she would go home thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is angry or whatever. And then just be sad. And I would have ruined someone who wanted to genuinely get to know me. So that's what I say. Films saved me,
Yeah.
with knowing that I'm able to. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I will not pour this anger on this lady. I'm just going to go back home, open my computer and add more anger to my characters, to my scripts. So that's what I was saying, like telling myself, it's okay. Don't yell, don't shout, just hold it on, hold it in, talk to her, be nice, be kind. When you go back home, open your computer and blast that script with all of the anger. And I did. I went back home and I just poured it all there, and I felt better. So that's what makes me a, a better human being. Is that I am able to not unleash pain and anger, whatever, to the world. I'd be able to hold it in, go back home, and write all the difficult scripts ever, all the sad scripts ever, write all the sad stories ever, and be a good human being in real life. So, yeah.
Do you do you think somebody taught you that, or how do you think you learned how to do that?
That's interesting. I don't know, honestly. I don't know how I learned that. I think I think I would say maybe I did. I don't know. I can't remember learning that from anybody. But I feel like when I watch movies, I could tell films that were done from a place of so much pain. I could tell. Even at a young age, I could tell. Even listen to music, you could tell when you hear some music, you can tell that this music was done with so much pain. You can tell. And I think for me, I would say right doing the Hail Mary was the first time I did it, and it was from a place of pain because I lost my dad.
Yeah.
So I wanted to pour all of the anger. Even when I did the Hail Mary, to be honest with you, the part that I played, that's like me just saying my talking, doing just being myself. That wasn't acting. If you are now knowing my backstory, if you remember the film, you can tell now that wasn't just me acting. I was just talking. So the character, when I wrote that character initially, I did not make him say those things that I said in the film. I just made him just a random teacher who just encouraged this young man, you know. Then one of my friends who read the script, knowing that my dad had died, he said, "This could be your chance to actually bring in yourself to the character." You know, and I was like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. No, it was like, you have to. For you to make this real, for you to make this very, very powerful, you need to go there. You know, I know it's hard, but once you do, you're going to write one of the most beautiful scenes ever. And I went back home and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this. Oh Lord. But I understood what they said. And
That's when you knew you had
I
to.
knew I had to. I just knew I had to do that. So I went back home. I cried. I cried. I cried. I cried. After crying, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do this. And I wrote that character. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm like, and again, I'm like, okay, I know that nobody else is going to play this part better than me who knows this part so well. And I know what it would mean to go on set and do this scene, just repeat it was just so hard, but I knew it needed to be done. And so on the day of filming, I just, told myself, and I put this schedule, I made it to be so that that scene was done on the first day. So that after that first day, I'm done. I won't deal with it anymore. So that was the first thing we shot on the first day, got out of the way. I just said, I was directing the film too, so I was like, I didn't want to direct the film knowing that I'm going to eventually do this scene maybe on the third or fourth day. I'm just going to do it the first day and get done with it. So we did it the first day, and when I tell you that was one of the most difficult days of my life because I was there saying lines that were true. Those were true lines that I was saying. That was my mom. The phone call, the mother, that was my mom literally talking on the phone. So
Mm.
it's like it was real, and these are all things that I experienced. But while the other actor was playing a part, he knew I was saying the real thing, and that helped him, in his own real life. Those tears you see in those scenes, they're all real experiences. And when I said and cut, I went home and I slept, and I was done, and then came back the next day, refreshed, happy, filled. I was filled with so much joy that I'd done something. But when I watch the scene now, I'm just thankful that I did that because that's like, that's the best thing I could have done for myself and for anybody else I was watching. So yeah.
That's so cool because now I feel like you answered my question earlier, like of how you grieved that loss.
Hmm.
And I just think of it's almost like a different version of you is speaking to a younger version
Yep.
of you,
Yep.
and you've like literally lived that and turned it into something that
Oh
the world
yeah.
could see.
Oh yeah. Have I fully understood my grief? No. I'm still on a journey to understanding what it really is, but I am much more better than I was, when he passed away and the months after he passed away.
Yeah, that's very cool to
Yeah.
think of that. Because how many takes did that scene? Was it?
Oh, let me try to remember. Let me see. I think it was like, because we had one camera. So they did this, they did this, did that. So I think probably like maybe like 5 to 6 takes, I guess. So we did a couple of times, and each time it got better. I didn't want to cry in that scene because I felt crying would have been the easiest thing to do. So I didn't want my character to cry. Like I didn't want myself to cry, even though I was getting there. I didn't want to cry. I wanted him to just say those lines, say those words, and you could tell he's struggling to get there.
Mhm.
I didn't want him to just be like, "Ugh," bawling or whatever. But each take we did, I was getting closer and closer to, and it wasn't just me, the character crying. It was me
Yeah.
crying. It was me, myself, me as Nnamdi. I was the one that was gonna cry. So I ensured that, once we did a couple of takes, I didn't want us to do more takes. Like if we did the more takes we did, I would have just been like, and it would have been a very terrible day for me. So, we did the 5 takes and it was good. It was about me. I made it clear that this scene is not about me. I'm only a vessel, trying to help this character, do something that I wish I could have done. So when we did my close up, I just made sure that it was everything that was done was the other character's character close up, and then we did the wide a couple of times, and that was it. So I didn't want us to do, because me typically as a director, I'm known for takes. I don't do just one take, and I would take as much as I can, 10, 15, whatever. I would keep on going and on and on and on. I want to have options. So I wasn't being typical of how I would direct. I just did that 5. I was like, okay, that's it. But everything I've done so far, oh my gosh, people just they know me. I'll keep on going and on and on and on and till I get exactly what I'm looking for. But yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, there's probably just there's a level of intimacy and rawness that
Hmm.
is, like,
Yeah.
how you can't be any closer to
No,
that
yeah.
scene.
Oh yeah. Oh definitely. Yes, for sure.
I was gonna ask when I asked if that was something you learned of how to channel those emotions into the scene, I wanted to ask if there's anything you noticed at least, and I don't know how familiar you'd be with the way grief is processed in America, but is there anything that you guys do in Nigeria, any traditions or anything that sticks out of a way to process that or anything that
Oh,
seems different?
to process. I mean, yeah, there's so many things that happens. One of them I explore in this film I just made in Dylan, which I'll show you a picture because I don't want to give it away, but I'll show you a picture and you're going to be very shocked
Okay.
at what you're going to see. So I explored it in this film, and it means so many things. It happens in so many ways, but I know I see it from my perspective. I understand, how this can help someone grieve or understand what they're going through. There's so many rites that are performed. One of them, for example, is, and this is peculiar to different tribes. Everybody has their own different ways. One thing I know that stands out, in grieving is, let me try to think. Let's see. So we do the way you guys do like the viewing of the body in our culture is very different. Our culture, we usually have the body in a particular room, and everybody goes in one by one to go see one by one. But the family members will go first and see, have their moment with the body, whatever, before everybody else starts to come. You don't just go, you just go one by one. You go around, you look, you come back, you go around, and that's it. It's done in a room, specific room, particular room that the body is kept, and that's how it's done, to respect this person, so it's like you don't just put it out in the public like in a church or whatever. No, it's done in a particular room, and then everybody goes in one by one to view the body. That's one thing we do differently from you guys over here. I think we also um we dress up in different in particular colors. So it's either you wear black or you wear white. I don't think you guys. What do you guys over here? You wear black?
Black generally,
Okay,
something
generally, okay,
darker, yeah.
yeah, okay, cool, yeah. So us is either white or black,
Mhm.
and not everybody wears. So the family members have specific uniforms that they wear. So everybody else can wear whatever they want, but the family members have something they particularly wear,
Yeah,
that's specific, and that's just used to, as a way to particularly honor that, to show that this person is them. They're the ones that are closer to this person. So they wear that particular thing, to help them deal with that. Then women do something, which I was going to show you, is they shave their hair. And sometimes there's so many um theories surrounding that particular act. But for me, I, I see it as, when a woman voluntarily shaves her hair, I see it as a way of like just letting go of everything, and then when it grows back again, it's just a fresh start. That's how I see it. But there's so many theories around it. Some people say, oh, because a woman's hair is her pride, and when her husband dies, that's her pride gone, whatever. You know, there's so many things. But for me particularly, especially how I use it in my film is just letting go. That final, when you do that, it's like, okay, I'm gonna let go of this person, and everything else that comes out again is going to be fresh and new. Is that always true? I mean, no, but doing that, I can see the power in doing that, because I know that grief doesn't go away. It stays with you forever. You just have to deal with it. But in doing that, I can see how that can be powerful, for whoever is doing that voluntarily,
yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
that's a lot for a woman to shave
oh
their
yeah,
hair, but
oh yeah.
I could see that that's I asked that because I've been thinking more recently, I don't know why it's come up, like different rites of
Hmm.
passages for boys and young men,
Yeah.
and how we don't really do much of that here
Mhm.
in America. Definitely, probably not as much as we used to.
Mhm.
And I just wondered on the other end if there's,
Oh, yeah.
similar to a wedding, but are there these very sacred ceremonies
Oh,
that
yeah.
actually are very healthy and help you
Oh, yeah.
help things?
Healthy, I don't know. But right, just like ritual, yeah, I think there's one that they do in my village particularly, where I think some group of elders sort of like induct you into like manhood or whatever, because they believe when your dad goes, then you are the man that steps in. So there's a right. I don't know exactly how that goes, but yeah, it exists. I don't know how healthy it is to help you deal with grief. I don't know, but it just makes you realize, okay, well, I have to step up,
Yeah.
which I can see how that works. I can see how that can be, helpful psychologically, like how that can make you, like how that can, help you process manhood when there's nobody to run to.
Yeah.
Like when there's no dad to like say, hey, dad, how can I, now he's gone. You can be like, okay, well, my dad is gone. So I need to step up. And so when in practicing or in indulging yourself in that right, I can see how that can, shape your mind in a way that, okay, well, this is for real. Now I have to step up. But I don't know about it being healthy. But I can see in retrospect, I can see how that can be, helpful in your journey as a man.
Yeah. I forget where I heard someone speaking of it, for a woman, like when a teenage girl, her menstrual cycle
Hmm.
starts, and there's that, the actual like visceral
Yep.
thing, and you
Hmm.
say, okay, like, she says, I'm becoming a woman.
Hmm.
For a man, we just kind of like slowly morph into
Just
that.
yeah, exactly.
But you could still, even like you were saying, some parents that are like a 10 or a 12-year-old,
Hmm.
you could still be stuck in that like 12-year-old, but you're
Yeah,
25.
exactly.
That's why I just wondered the value in a ceremony of like, hey, you're becoming a man now.
Hmm.
And I heard one recently that what a teenage, I think he was 13 or 14, he did 24 hours silence and blindfold.
Oh, wow.
And then in the 24 hours, I think they kind of primed him to say, think about you're becoming a man, you're
Mhm.
growing up. And he was saying after that he really appreciated his parents more than anything.
Mhm.
And so many things just from that 24 hours. That's pretty intense
That's
for
very
a
intense.
14-year-old.
Yeah, that's intense.
But I thought it was cool to think of that because I just think about that for when I have kids is how will we sort of honor these
Yeah.
stages of life
Like,
so they don't, I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just thought about something that happened too. Is like, when someone passes away, particularly like a father or whatever, it's the first son's duty to take the body to the village.
Okay.
So that the day he passes, and then since I wasn't around, I was here. My younger brother, who's like the last born of the house, had to do it,
Yeah.
which I thought that was just crazy. It was, I think at that time he was like 17 or thereabout. It was just a little kid. So my dad died that very day. They had to make him enter a car with my dad in the back
Oh, wow.
and take the body to the village. I thought that was just crazy,
Yeah.
and I felt really bad. And that's something I still hold on to, like some kind of like guilt is that it was me to do it anyway. I'm just like, oh my gosh, thank God I wasn't the one to do it, because I would have been so devastated. I don't know how I could have been able to do that,
Yeah.
but this my brother did that, and that's something I should have done, and I think that whole thing, while as crazy and sad and very horrifying and visceral, it was, I think also somewhere in your mind it just gets you to that point of like, okay, I'm doing this. Okay, this is real. I'm a man now. I have to step up, to get this, for me to have done this, and that's probably what I think contributed to my younger brother being very, like, so strong right now, maybe strong and also very, like, still, of course, the grief of it all, I can't even imagine what it was for him to just do that, but I think that sort of like strengthened him in a way, because for you to just sit down in a car with your father in the back for like 12 hours driving, that's just crazy, so
That's a lot, a
that's
long drive
that's
too.
that's crazy. That's a
Yeah.
long drive, and I can't even imagine the amount of the things in your mind, like just when you look back and just see like someone wrapped in like a black bag, and it's just like, that's my father, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. I don't want to even think about it. Just it's crazy. If I was the one that did that, I would probably just collapse or whatever, something. I don't know. Just thinking about it. But yeah, just in retrospect, I can see how that would man you up in the most visceral way possible, but it gets the job done, I guess.
Yeah, I was 11 when my father passed.
Mhm.
I'm the oldest son. So there was no kind of ceremony or intentional, but that's something that makes you grow up
Oh,
very
yeah.
fast.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't like it's not even told.
Yeah.
No one said, "Hey, you're now the man of the
Mhm.
family," but I felt it
Oh, yeah.
consciously and unconsciously.
Mhm.
And from then very much approached life much more like an adult.
Yeah.
And I was still like an idiot kid in a lot of senses, but
Mhm.
that I wonder if something a little more intentional when someone's a little older could go a long way.
Way, yeah,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. For us, it's like again, we are very, Africans. We're very like direct. We have anything things. There are that so many things for specific things. So and everything, and those cultures and everything have to be performed. So whether you're like 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, it has to be done. While that can be very hard, but I can see how that can be very helpful. Even me being far away too, I still felt the heat. Like for example, like the rights of the burial rights and the things you have to buy and pay for while I was here, I still felt it. Nobody was gonna tell you, oh, because you're in America and yeah, let's be lenient. Nah, I faced everything, and I had to step up in some things, some things when things were not going the way it's supposed to go. I had to like pick up the phone and yell and scream. Even my mom would be like, "Oh, don't worry, let's just do this." I'm like, "No, we're not gonna do it that way." And I'm like, so in those moments where I'm doing those things, and I'm like, huh, who would have thought that I would be doing this at this point? That's crazy. Calling people and be like, hey, do it this way, do it that way. You should have done it this way, but don't do it. I don't want, stuff like that, somewhere in your mind, you're like, and then after the funeral rites were done, I automatically became the father of the house. My brother was still in school, my sister was still in school, my mom was working, and they would call me for things and call me for that. My phone would be ringing every time. And even when I'm living my life, I'm also thinking of my family back home. Any slightest thing, I'm always worrying about them. That's just me becoming a father. I became a father in 2020, and having kids before I even had my own kids, so psychologically that does that for you. And now it's like this thing that they say, when your mom loses her husband, you become the husband.
Yeah.
So in my mind, psychologically, I am my mother's husband. So she calls me asking me for certain things that could have just been done. It's just her holding on to me as her husband. And then when my brothers are calling me for things that I feel like they could have easily done, it's like I'm the dad. I have to do things for them. So it just mean my life changed drastically, like, from that moment on. But I mean, I guess, that's the cross that everybody has crosses that they have to bear in life.
Yeah.
That's my own cross, that I have to bear. But I'm also very thankful that I have somewhere to pour all of this pain to, which goes back to like, art being like my escape route.
Maybe this is a weird question. I just heard someone talking about this. So is there anyone that you look to as a father figure now that your father's not in your life?
That is very, very interesting. I mean, physically, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nobody that I mean, I admire people.
Yeah.
I admire people a lot. One of them is the former mayor of Helena, Mayor Wilmot. He is somebody I look up to in so many ways. He reminds me of my dad, just crazy, how he behaves and everything. But I look up to him and I admire him. But so far as like seeing somebody like as a father figure, the only person that I have as a father figure is God. God
Yeah.
Almighty, which is funny because my name is interesting. You're going to be so shocked by this. So my name means my father is present.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's just crazy, right? Yeah. So, when my dad died, I just thought it was just a foolish name. Like I'm like, what's the use of this name? Like I don't have a father anymore, so maybe I should change my name to something else or whatever. But then in those moments, and it dawned on me, like, hey, your father might not be present physically, but there's a father above who is present every time, and has been all through my life. So that's what like made me go back to like God, and I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, while my father is not present physically, God has always been present in my life every step of the way. I can't even count how much, I believe so much in God and how He has helped me through my life generally. So my name being my father is present now has transformed, you know, to from physical presence to like God in heaven. So I would say the only father figure I have right now is God. So
That's very cool.
yeah.
What religion do you guys practice?
So Nigeria is half and half. We have Muslims and we have Christians.
Okay.
It's like half, you know. So we have Christians, of course, we have like Pentecostal, Catholic, all kinds of, um, Christian faiths and denominations. Yeah, and then Muslims. So
Somebody in Montana said to me, they're like, what religion did you grow up, and I said Christian, and they're like, what kind? And I was like, how many kinds are there? It's like,
yeah, that's a very funny question because like religion is either you're Christian or you're Muslim, and then what denomination or what's your
yeah,
faith? Then you can be either Anglican, Catholic, Pentecostal, Jehovah's Witness, whatever, there's so many kinds.
yeah, we went to a non-denominational church.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up, so my family was just being, I grew up in so many kind of faiths, I remember at one time we were Methodists, at one time we were, you know, I think Pentecostal is like the canopy of all non-Catholic. You're either Catholic or Pentecostal. So we've been through so many kinds of Pentecostal faiths. We were Methodists, we were Anglicans, and then later part of my life, when I was growing up, as a young adult, till now, we became non-denominational. So we were in like a non-denominational church. At some point, I was even Catholic too. That's what inspired this film I just made now. Is also based on like the Catholic faith.
Mhm.
So everything that I used in this film is some things that I learned from the time that I was Catholic. So, but now I just believe in God. I believe in my Savior, and I worship God in truth and in spirit. I don't believe in any religious faith or any particular religious doctrine, because that's not what Christianity is.
Yeah,
Christianity is about is being Christ-like and being, following God for you, worshiping God for yourself. So that's what I am right now. So when anybody asks, are you still Christian? Or no?
yeah,
Okay.
and it's like more recently, me and my fiance have been going to
hmm
church here locally.
Oh, cool,
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah. So non-denominational, right? Non-denominational.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh well, I mean, as long as you worship God in
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your heart and you know what you're worshiping and who you're worshiping, that's all that matters. Many people just go to church to sit down on the pews and just for all righteousness' sake,
yeah,
and then they don't really have Christ in their heart. So to me, that's just performative. If you want to be a Christian, you're a true Christian, you should be following Christ. In truth and in spirit, in your heart, and you're doing things that He asked you to do, and not things that the church asks you to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago, I dated a girl who was very devout Catholic, and it left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth
Mm,
because it seemed very dogmatic.
yeah.
Nice girl, but
Yeah.
it was a lot.
That's what I'm saying. So many people just go to church and they worship God based on what the church
Yeah,
tells them to do, you know. But if you're a true follower of Christ, you understand that you're supposed to worship God in truth and in spirit. And then whatever they tell you, the idea, in fact, the term Christian literally means Christ-like.
yeah,
So many things that the churches are doing right now are not even Christ-like,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Not even
Not
close.
not close to being Christ-like. You're not even, if Christ should come down. I say this thing many times to people. I say, if Christ should come down right now and look at what you're doing in church or whatever you're doing as a Christian, would you say He's going to be proud of you? Many people are not going to say yes, because they're not doing exactly what Christ says we should do. So they're doing what your church says you should do. And if you go down the rabbit hole of Christianity and religion and everything, just keep going. It's just going to be so crazy. So I always tell people, and even tell myself, just do what Christ says you should do. Follow God, worship Him in truth and in spirit, and whatever the church is doing, these days, it's not what it's not what the Bible says we should do. So, well, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a push-pull for me because I was kind of drugged there as a kid,
hmm
and then as an adult, I felt myself compelled to go back, but, some of the stuff is questionable.
Yeah, it is questionable. So you go there. I think one thing I know for sure is you go to church just to have a community that would help you keep you grounded
Yeah,
in your faith. But many a times, the things that happen in churches, should not be the yardstick for your faith and your walk with Christ. You should know God for yourself. When you read the Bible, you should be, the things that you learn are for yourself. but then have a community that just keeps you grounded. Because sometimes you need that community, you need a community to let you know that, okay, well, you're a child of God, you shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. At the same time, know God for yourself. So for me personally, my walk with Christ is very personal. I want to know God for myself and not knowing God based off what I was told in church or whatever. So yeah, so I encourage people to just know God for themselves, because if you look around you and people that call themselves Christians, the things that they do these days, I don't know, man, because I'm like, when Christ comes back, you know that you're going to be questioned, because this thing you're doing is not what the Bible tells you to do. But hey, I'm just one person, so
Yeah, I hear you there.
yeah.
So when you look at Montana in the US and Nigeria, like what's the biggest contrast or the biggest like what's the weirdest thing that is done here or done there, or like have you had any big breakthroughs in perspective? Because you obviously have said that you're doing something very unique and
Hmm.
doing the film here
Yeah.
where there's not a really strong tried and true way. But have you seen other things here that you've brought into, you know, the culture that you have from where you grew up?
Hmm.
And is there anything you appreciate, anything you can't stand?
Yeah. One thing I really appreciate here is the fact that the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
Like, I just like the idea that you can just do whatever you want to do. And like, as long as you're good and you know what you're doing, you would always find somebody who would appreciate what you're doing. I've always had my mind like, the idea of like, oh yeah, the world is my oyster and I'm the pearl and I can do whatever I want to do. But then again, sadly in Nigeria, sometimes, it's not easy like that, because there's so many challenges. You can't really just wake up and just say, I want to be a filmmaker and that's it. It's so hard. It's difficult. And, it's a growing industry, and everybody's just like fighting and trying to, like, there's gatekeepers, there's this, there's that, there's all of that craziness that goes on back there. When I was back in, because before I came here, I was also like an actor, struggling actor, and trying to get a big break in Nollywood, which is the film industry back there. And many times you get there, you want to make a film, you want to be an actor, they tell you, oh, you can, but, yeah, but, and people don't get, you don't get cast or get into a project based off talent all the time. Sometimes you are cast because of your followers on social media. You're cast because of the amount of people you know. You're cast because of how popular you are. There's so many reasons where they cast people, not necessarily for talent. So that was one thing I noticed, and I was like, nah, I don't think I can be here. And when I make a film, when I want to make a film, I look around. The people that they consume certain kinds of stories, and I'm like, I'm out of the box. I don't want to be telling the same thing people are telling over and over again. I want to be different. I want to be unique. So it's difficult to be different back home. So that's something that I struggled with a lot. But when I came to America, came to Montana, for all places, for the first time I got into a project, I got cast because I was good, and because I was good, they tried to make it work. That's something I've never seen. In every Hollywood film you watch, there's always one new person, one new talent, one new character, somebody that gets a big break based off their talent and their skills, and I liked that for sure. I like the fact that I could wake up one morning and talk to somebody that I can put out something and be like, hey, I want to make it. For example, this film I just made now, I didn't have any money to make it. I didn't have a single dollar. All I had was a story and my talent and my heart to make this film. And I reached out to a bunch of people. I said, hey, I have this story I want to make. I don't have any money. Can we do it? Oh, I love the script. I loved it. I want to help you make this. I believe in this project. And that's how my film was made, with community. I put myself out there, and people saw what I was doing and liked it, and they wanted to help me do it. Back home, you really can't get that, done. So I like the fact that, you can just have a dream and work hard, and that dream will come to life with people that believe in you to make it work. As opposed to back home, when you have to like struggle and try to convince people and try to, it's not that very easy, honestly. There's still challenges here, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but it's really easy. It's really like, once you know what you're doing, you can just get it done. It's easy to find people who believe in you here than back home, unfortunately. They're going to kill me for this, but it is what it is. That's what it is. I struggled with that a lot back home, but here, somebody watches you, sees what you're doing. I like that story. I want to help you get it done. That's how I made my first film. That's how I made the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
That's how I made, somebody reached out to me like, hey, I like what you're doing. I want to help you do it. That's how I made Water Girl. You know, it wouldn't. I'd never seen that happen back home. Sadly, you know, it is what it is. I make stories that are centered in my culture and everything. People in my culture don't even believe in making art. So it's hard. So that's what I want. One big thing that big thing that I know happens back home. That is a huge challenge. But here is you just need to find one person that trusts you. I'm telling you, I can't believe how much how I was able to film a few days ago with people, just because they just believe in you, and by the grace of God and everything. So that's one thing I know that I appreciate here is once you find somebody that believes in you, that's it.
And I think you're because you tell stories from your heart,
Hmm.
I think people believe in you because they can feel it.
Exactly. That's what I
Yeah,
was going to say too. It's like the people over here can tell when you're being truthful.
yeah,
Like you don't have to fake anything. Honestly, you don't have to fake anything. Just be yourself and just. I always say this thing when people ask me like, why don't I tell like American Hollywood style films? Why am I trying to make myself different? I'm like, I cannot make a Hollywood film more than Hollywood filmmakers. I can't wake up one morning and I want to make like an action film. I can't wake up one morning and decide to make a film about like a ranch and a bunch of cowboys. Nah, I can't do that.
yeah,
But what I can do is make a film about a Nigerian who comes into a ranch and meets a bunch of cowboys. Now that one I can make because guess what? Now I'm bringing a different person who comes into this space and gets to meet other people, and then something is created. I can make a western about a Nigerian or a Black American who comes into a space and is maybe like a Black American goldsmith or something in a ranch and meets a bunch of other people and then something happens. I don't know, but but I cannot wake up one morning and decide to tell a story about a man who owns a ranch, born and bred in Montana. I can't do that.
yeah.
So I'm going to bring my own perspective to it. And guess what? Because of how truthful it is, people will see it and they will believe in it and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is unique and this is truthful and it's different. I want to see that happen. You know, so that's why I say find your voice and stay in your lane. And you would conquer. As long as you're truthful and your story is real. One of the biggest reasons why people will help trying to help me with the last big sky is the fact that I was always very clear that this is my personal story. It's something that I've dealt with. It's true. It's real. And I share my experience with them about how I dealt with my brother passed and how my mother was able to deal with that and what she went through. When they hear that story and they read the script, everybody who read the script always tell me, "Oh my gosh, I was crying, I was bored and everything." You cannot cry for a script that is not real.
Yeah.
You would only cry and relate when it's true and authentic. So I would rather that's what I choose to do, and I would remain there because I feel like when I do that and I remain in that lane, telling truthful stories, I would always find people that would believe in it. So that's what I believe, and I think has been working for me so far.
See, now I'm gonna go back and watch the scene again
Oh yeah,
from Hail Mary
oh
because
yeah.
now that I've talked to
Oh no,
you,
no. Now that
yeah,
you've learned about this story, if you go back and see that performance, you would understand where I'm coming from because
yeah.
it was real. It was very true. It was true. Difficult scene for me, but it was very truthful and it was very needed. So yeah, you would see the difference if you go back and watch that scene for sure.
The cool thing is I think that anyone that listens to this will then go watch it too because they'll want to see that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now that you've known. If you go to Amazon Prime, see the Hail Mary, and you watch the scene where I was with the young guy I was talking about my dad, you would understand. And you can see from my performance what I was doing that it wasn't acting, it was just me just explaining what I went through before. And I wanted to feel and again going back to like the rights that women do, you see that I was bowed, I shaved my head.
Uh,
That was also me trying to like be just in the moment. I wanted to just be very different. I wanted to feel something because I'm giving away something. So I shaved my head and I said, okay, I'm going to shave my head and do this scene so that when I come back after some time, my hair is grown and everything, I'll feel some kind of detachment. I'm one of those actors that like to make my performance physical. I must do something physical when I'm acting, particularly scenes that are very close to home. I have to be physical with it so that later on when I'm going to watch it or whatever, when I see it, I feel some kind of separation. It's what I do in my head. I don't know if every other actor does it, but for me, I need to do that so that I can have, you know, a separation.
But it's cool because you were talking about how some of when a family member dies, the wife may shave their head, and
Mhm.
that could be part of a ceremony, and there's almost like that part of you, which that might not have even been your intention, but you did also honor what you were going through
Yeah,
at the same time,
yeah.
and the scene and the act.
See what you said now just makes sense because I didn't think about it that way. But
Yeah,
looking back now, I think I agree with you. Because for me, I wanted to separate myself from the story, but in a way, it's sort of like honor. Like, okay, take it out and just like because I didn't go back home for the funeral, so maybe this is my own way of
yeah,
of honoring my dad. So yeah, that makes so much sense. That's very interesting.
it's very cool.
Thinking about it, yeah, that's really cool. Huh? That's crazy. Yeah, I agree.
See, now you've sold everyone on the movie, so everyone's gotta
No,
watch it.
no. I'm going to also go back to watch it too because now hearing what you just said now is going to give me a different understanding of it. Actually, thinking about it now, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. That's very cool.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That's really cool.
So how is being an independent filmmaker in Bozeman and Montana overall? Is it a good community for it?
It's a beautiful community. I'm not. I couldn't have asked for a better place to make films. Like I always say, I'm a proud Montana filmmaker. I'm very proud to be a part of the community of storytellers, people who are just helping to reshape what it means to tell stories in the West. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that my stories are accepted, my voice is accepted, and I'll keep on making more films. One of my biggest goals is not to make films that'll make people think, oh my gosh, Montana, I have to go there. No, it's to really understand this space and know that there's so much more to this space. I was in Martha's Vineyard last year when I went to screen Water Girl, and when I took the mic and I said, "Oh hey, I'm from Montana," everybody like, "Montana? What is that? What is going?" And now everybody who was there had no idea what Montana is, and now me, who is like a Nigerian who's been there for like almost 8 years, I'm now given the mantle to tell people what Montana is. So now, like I said, I'm not going there to tell you something different. I'm going to tell you what it is. And I'm going to tell you what I bring to the table. So you know what is. First of all, you respect the space that I find myself in.
Mhm,
Then I'm going to tell you, okay, this is also what I'm bringing here. I'm not going to, my goal is not to change you know, the perspective or understanding of the space, but to prefer and to sell you also another unique perspective. So when you come to this space, you are getting the what you're getting the authentic, and you're also getting other perspectives. So that's what I do here. So that's what I've been doing here. So it's beautiful. The community is great. Like when I was in Dillon, I had a great time filming with lots of community members who showed up to help me make the film. So it's been amazing. Community support is incredible. It's also very challenging, very, very challenging, extremely challenging. Because again, I'm the only person that I know that is doing this. There's no other person who I can look up to, who I can fall back to. I'm not complaining in any way. I'm just saying, like, being the one doing this is just really hard sometimes. And of course, just one of the biggest things, of course, every independent filmmaker faces is like the finance part. It's like hard to get money to make films and everything. That's why we do crowdfunding. And, as an independent filmmaker, the goal is to one day be in a position where, financiers and, people who have the money and the wherewithal can see you and say, hey, I like the work you're doing. I'm going to give you this money to make more work. And change sort of like give you a bit of, a cushion so you don't have to struggle anymore. Aside that, it's been grateful, it's beautiful, and I'm hopeful that, we can keep doing what we're doing, and just, get to a point where we can successfully, make films without having to struggle. There's still the struggle part. It's always going to be there till you make it. For now, you're always going to struggle. Most of the work I do myself. Most of the groundwork, going from place to place, going to, local businesses and people, talk to them to convince them to want to give you their space. Luckily for me, when I went to film in Dillon, I had the privilege to, to be helped by an amazing man called Stan Smith, who is a local Dillon filmmaker who was able to help me get things on ground. See, that's beautiful now. But then if I make films in Bozeman, I really don't have much people. I have to do the work myself, go to places, ask for help, which I don't mind doing, but it's just a lot difficult. And because I don't have any money, I have to like do certain things myself, but I would like to be in a place where, I'll be like, oh, hey, I can do this and, pay someone to get it done, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm trusting the process. I know that life is a journey and this career it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's a long one. So I'm going to get there eventually. So, but for now, I'm just going to keep doing, the work and building myself up to a point where, I don't have to struggle as much as I'm doing right now. So yeah.
Do you know anything or have you attended Montana Festival?
Yeah, I've been
Okay.
to a couple, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
the CEO Patton just recorded a couple weeks ago.
Oh, awesome,
And
nice.
I thought some of the film stuff and the art scene there is very cool
Oh
that
yeah.
they're promoting
hmm
a lot of that stuff going on here in Montana.
hmm Oh, definitely, yeah, of course, definitely. I should have my film last year had like a huge premiere again, like I said, in Bozeman and Helena. So that sort of like took away the chances to screen in like Montana festivals because I already had like a huge,
Yeah, yeah.
premiere and stuff like that. So, but with the last Big Sky, I'm hoping to, enter into more Montana festivals and maybe use that as my premieres instead of doing like actual premieres or whatever. But yeah, I love Montana Festival because now you get to show your work to people. Oh, actually, Water Girl screened in Polson at the Flathead Lake
Okay.
Cinema Fest, where he won like at least 3 or 4 awards, which was crazy. But just being in that festival and just seeing how people like enjoy the film and everything was just beautiful. I enjoy, showing my work here in Montana, to community members who want to see something. And they're in for a treat. Because I tell you, this film, The Last Big Sky, is different. It's unique. I'll show you some pictures when we're done, but it is just beautiful. It's a unique story. It's not a story. It's not a story that you're seeing from one side. Okay, now it's about the Nigerian, but this is about two cultures coming together, and it's a universal theme too. Which I think is so amazing. I really can't wait. To show the film to people. We just finished filming 3 days ago, and I'm currently trying to crowdfund to finish up post production, and hopefully by next year, I'll be able to show the film. But yeah, it's gonna be great.
Very
Beautiful.
cool.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to help you fund this or look at any of your work, where should
Yeah.
they go to find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can check me out on Instagram. My Instagram handle is the Nnamdi Kanaga, or just, you can go on Google and just search for The Last Big Sky by Nnamdi Kanaga, and you'd see like, the links or whatever there. And, if you want to help chip in something, help us. So keep making films, because, art is one beautiful way to escape from reality. And also art is also helpful. Our art is therapy,
Yeah.
So like I said, one of my biggest reasons to make this film is I wanted people who are going through like grief and stuff to understand that they're not alone. And it's okay to feel every single pain that you're feeling. However you want to express it is okay. Like in this film, the mother expresses her grief in a very unique way, which I think is okay. So yeah, that's my goal, So I know it's going to help a lot of people when they watch the film. It's going to be a very great healing process for people. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing. So yeah, if you're someone who's like excited about stuff like that, you can just like go and help us chip in on Give Butter. The link, once you just check for The Last Big Sky by Nnamdi Kanaga, you see the links, and you can help us get it out there. And come rain, come sunshine, I'm gonna release the film next year. So it is what I'm that kind of person who just, my faith is bigger than the entire Montana state. Like I have huge, I so much have faith.
That's big
Let
faith.
me let me tell you. When I tell you I started planning this film even before I saw a dollar. Like I already done my casting, done my location route, everything I've done. Props. I started building my props, everything before I even had a single dollar. That's how big my faith is. I just believe that when I feel something in my heart, and I know that I'm meant to make this. I always have this nudge when I write scripts. I have a gazillion scripts that I've written, but what makes me produce any script is I always have this nudge. Like my stomach is like, I'm feeling this thing. I can't rest. That's when I know that a story is meant to be made. When I have that feeling in any story that I'm writing, I start to work immediately. I don't care if I don't have the money or whatever. I don't care. I just know that I'm going to make it. So my faith, I tell people that my faith is as big as anything that you can imagine. That's how huge it is. And I work my head off, to ensure that it happens. And by God's grace and God's mercy, it always comes to pass. So that's how it is. 1 week ago, I'm not even kidding you. 1 week ago, I was walking the streets. I received the email that I didn't get the grant, and I did not know how I was going to make that film. I was ready to send emails like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cancel whatever." And something just told me and said, "This story is going to happen. Just keep working, believe, trust." I said, "Okay, whatever it is." And when we're on the first day of filming, I couldn't even believe. I was like, "Wow, this is happening." I couldn't even believe my eyes. So that's how much it is. That's how my faith is. So I always have, even though I'm going to deal with one or two, hiccups here and there. I'm only human. I can only feel. When I feel, I need to feel it, and I'm like, doubt comes in here and there, but it doesn't shake me from chasing the dreams. So yeah.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Nnamdi, I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank
It's
you
been
so
so much fun
much.
talking
I
with you.
really appreciate being here.
I'm
Thank you.
gonna I'm gonna put all the links in the descriptions everywhere I post this, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, so anyone can get straight
Yeah.
to your page and
Thank
support you.
you. Thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Thank you for what you're doing, actually.
Yeah.
Like, when I reached out to you, I was like, hey, I wasn't even sure if you're gonna, like, how am I gonna even will my story make sense in this space? But, you just responding and, having me here, it means a lot to me, helping to amplify, our voices and stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm glad I made the time, and I love the way that you express your art in film, and it's beautiful to see.
Oh,
So
yeah.
keep
Thank
it
you
up.
so much. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, Nnamdi.
Thank you. Oh, this was awesome.
Yeah,
Oh
very
my
fun. Thank you,
God.
sir.
My first podcast. I've never been on a podcast before.
Thanks for listening, folks. You can find the full blog post for every episode, along with key takeaways and links at mountain-mule.com. If you haven't yet, consider following the show. That one small action helps these Montana businesses get seen, grow, and thrive, and it helps this podcast keep going too. If you know a business that would be a good fit for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Just reach out through the website or social. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses. See you on the next show.